Hello everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland Reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And this week, continuing the long train of Martin Scorsese films, we're taking our first divergence into the realm of music. And this concert film, The Last Waltz. And if you haven't watched the show before, I have 3 segments. We start off with coming attractions, and this is going to be for Friday, November 5th. Then we'll jump into The Last Waltz and talk in depth about the film. And then we wrap things up at the end with some recommendations for you. So let's get things started with our coming attractions for November 5th. And, it's close to picking. There's a Marvel movie coming out, and I'm a pretty big fan. Eternals seems to be an interesting film, and with Chloe Zhao involved in the whole big cast and everything. There's also Finch, which is a new sci-fi film with Tom Hanks coming out on Apple TV+. But the film that really grabbed my attention is Spencer, and this is a new film about Princess Diana, and this is from writer Stephen Knight of Peaky Blinders fame and director Pablo Larraín, who is famous for his film Jackie and some other quality projects as well. And you have, of all people, Kristen Stewart playing Princess Diana, and this is getting tons of buzz, and Kristen Stewart's getting tons of buzz for her performance in this film, and it looks strikingly beautiful and emotional, and I'm very excited for it. So this definitely grabbed my attention for my pick for my coming attraction of this week. But there are some interesting films coming out, but this Spencer seems to be a big Oscar contender, so I'm very excited about it. Now, shifting gears into our feature of the week, we have The Last Waltz, which this is the last ever concert from the band. And being a big classic rock fan that I am, I was super excited when I first watched this. And this is probably the 3rd or 4th time that I've actually watched The Last Waltz. And it's an incredible concert, an incredible performance. And Martin Scorsese really shows that he has an eye to capture the wonders of music and performances, the energy, the uses of light and camera work and close-ups and framing, and everything really brings a lot of energy and life to these performances. And some of these performances are absolutely amazing. The high energy, and you just have right at the center here, Robbie Robertson, who is the biggest voice of the band. I've seen the documentary that focuses on his perspective on the band. It's very biased, obviously, because it's just him and his perspective on the band. But you have the band in its entirety here, and you hear from different members, and you have Rick Denko, their bassist, guitarist, vocalist, Garth Hudson, their keyboardist, who really gets the shine in a couple of the songs in this film, Richard Manuel on drums, Robbie Robertson, and Levon Helm, who is probably the biggest personality besides Robbie Robertson in the band, and his vocal performances and his work on the drums. And you get to hear from all of them, because this isn't just a camera looking at them performing. You get to hear from them behind the scenes. You get to hear about one of their first gigs in Texas, and this, them painting this picture of an early gig of a big music band. You hear them talking about going to New York City and just feeling the magic of being in the city and the big lights and the perspective it gives them to see everything and the connections that they have, because this is a band made up of some Canadian boys and some Southern boys, and just being lost in the wonder of the city, and which is an interesting segment in the film, because it's Martin Scorsese. He is very connected to New York City, and hearing this connection that you have here in this film, and you hear them talking about women and all these different other kinds of things throughout the film sporadically. But what's really interesting is obviously the performances, and right off the bat, they just kick into gear with Down on Cripple Creek, which is one of their most famous songs, and there's just so much energy in Levon Helm's singing, and just you could tell they're having tons of fun in multiple of these songs, these performances, the energy they're building off of each other. That's definitely one of them. You have The Shape I'm In with Garth Hudson on his keyboards and the focus. You can hear them talking about him over their playing. And then this isn't just the band. This last performance over Thanksgiving had so many artists that shaped music. And you have Ronnie Hawkins, who was one of the first people that really found them. They worked with him, they played behind him, and he rips out "Who Do You Love" in his old Southern twang, and which I think most people nowadays probably know this song from George Thorogood. But this was such a fun performance. Hawkins has a lot of energy. You have Such a Night with Dr. John and his weird quirkiness about him behind his piano, doing his noodling around on his keys, and him doing his performance. You have Neil Young, who pops up, one of the biggest names on this card, and singing Helpless, the song that he had with Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. And, Neil Young has that very specific, like, whiny kind of voice, and mixing with the rest of the band, and them just performing together. The Weight, which is probably, I think, their most famous song, and them performing it, but also with the staple singers and their added soulful vocals that add layers into the song, is an interesting rendition and shakes things up a bit. And I think it's a cool spin on one of their famous songs. And then you have The Night They Drove Old Dixie Down, which that's also one of their most famous songs, very controversial now because certain people utilizing it as their anthem for their hate groups. But this is a really soulful performance, and you can feel that from Levon Helm. And have Dry Your Eyes with, like, Neil Diamond pops up for a song on here, which is very interesting because, like, I basically know two Neil Diamond songs at this point, and it's Sweet Caroline and Brother Love's Travelin', forgetting all the words. They play it a lot in the trailers for Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and it was a big song in the film as well. You have Joni Mitchell coming in and her unique vocals and her presence mixing well with the band for the song Coyote. And Muddy Waters, this was one of the particular ones that got me really excited because I love blues music, and him singing Mannish Boy just felt so right with the band playing behind him and him doing his very unique vocals, and really felt like something fresh and different on the show because, the band has its roots in blues and different kinds of, like, grassroots kind of music, but, like, this was, like, the blues. And it was a cool addition to the show. You have Eric Clapton performing Further On Up the Road. I know it's strange thinking about him right now with everything going on with COVID and a lot of the controversial comments that he's been making lately, but, like, he's still one of the greatest guitarists to ever live, and him jamming out with the band is such a cool thing to watch here, and even playing something that isn't, like, a big, super well-known song at the time, but, like, it works really well. There's a couple of studio songs, like, they're well-framed and shot inside a studio, and Evangeline is one of them with Emmylou Harris, and with her work that she does with Mark Knopfler, I absolutely love her singing and her music, and her performance here with the band is another special highlight in this whole entire film. They perform their song Ophelia, and then Van Morrison pops in to play Caravan, and he's just, like, kicking and vibing all over the place on the stage, and there's a lot of high energy in that particular performance. And then Bob Dylan comes out and plays Forever Young, and this is a really special one because they had such a strong connection, Bob Dylan and the band. He was one of the driving forces that really put them on the map, and seeing him at the close and being the last guest performer before they all come out for the jam session is a really cool thing to watch in this film. And then the big jam session, which, it's just so many different people performing all together, all at once, but like the star power on that stage, even bring out Ron Wood from the Rolling Stones and Ringo from the Beatles, and just filling it out, this amazing ensemble of people, a once-in-a-lifetime kind of performance. And that's what this film is. It captures music magic, it captures a generation of music. And this is such a significant thing, and Martin Scorsese, you can tell, has a passion for this. He has a passion for music. You can feel that in his films. And seeing films where he gets to really focus on that passion is something special. And they wrap things up with the performance of the theme of The Last Waltz, all of them together playing off the film in the studio setting. And this is just a magical experience from start to finish, getting to listen to them play all these songs with all of these amazing artists that have made such an amazing impact on music. And this is a once-in-a-generational kind of thing that Martin Scorsese was able to capture, and capture all the energy. Like, you're sitting there listening to this on a TV, and it feels like you're there with them. And that's what's so great. And like, the film starts off like, this film must be played loud. And that's such a great thing. And it's so true, and it's so wonderful. And if you haven't experienced this and you're not really super into like classic rock music and music of like the 60s into the 70s, this is an amazing gateway into a whole entire world of music from all different kind of genres, colliding with such a unique and special band like the band, who played all different kinds of music and brought them all together to give this unique sound and really launch careers of a lot of different bands that had that grassroots kind of music. And this is a special film, and if you haven't seen it, please give it a watch. But that's the feature of the week. And just wrapping things up with some recommendations here, you have Army of Thieves on Netflix that I watched. It's the prequel spin-off of Army of the Dead from Zack Snyder. And basically Matthias, the main actor and director of the film, brings a lot of personality and fun, and Dieter, this character who is a highlight in Army of the Dead, runs the show in this film. Hans Zimmer has an infectious score to this film. And it's just a fun, quirky kind of heist movie. And if you just want to have a fun time for 2 hours and 9 minutes, a little long, but it's such a blast, and you can just throw on Netflix and have some fun with it. And of course, it's the Halloween season just wrapping up, so there's all kinds of things. I just rewatched Nightmare Before Christmas and Little Shop of Horrors, What We Do in the Shadows, all different kinds of fun things to enjoy your Halloween season. So those are a couple of my favorites that I always like to watch every year. But that's all I have to say on this episode of Welcome to the Wasteland this week. If you haven't seen The Last Waltz, it is such a great musical masterpiece. And Scorsese shows his passion for music, and the band go off with one of the greatest concerts of all time. So go check out the film, check out some of my other episodes, and keep checking in each week as I go through the rest of Martin Scorsese's filmography. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland Reviewer.